Jason and the Argonauts. A murdered father. Iolcus was the king of a great land, and he had only one son, Jason, who he hoped would rule the land after he died. But the story of Iolcus is an unhappy one, for he never saw his son grow to manhood and stand beside him. Instead, while Jason was still young, the king's brother Pelias killed Iolcus and made himself king of the land. But Pelias was afraid he would lose the land he had violently taken, so he planned to kill Jason as well. But Jason's mother tricked Pelias, pretending that Jason had died from sickness. Meanwhile, she gave her baby son to Chiron the centaur. Chiron was half man and half horse, and was both strong and wise. He taught Jason skills with a sword and much knowledge from great books. When Jason turned 16 years old and became a man, Chiron told him the story of his father's murder. Immediately, Jason left to find Pelias and take back his father's land. Jason was not Pelias's only enemy. In fact, Pelias had a terrible enemy in heaven among the gods. Jason's uncle, the murderer king, had prayed and given gifts to all the gods except Hera, the wife of Zeus. Because of this, Hera hated King Pelias and wanted to see him lose his power. She decided to test Jason to see if he was a good man who deserved to become king. Hera's test was a dangerous one. Only a true hero would pass it. As Jason walked, Hera caused a great storm to begin. She then turned herself into an old woman and stood beside a fast and terrible river. When Jason saw the old woman, he asked her what she was doing, not knowing that a goddess stood before him.
"There used to be a bridge here,"
said the old woman.
"but now the storm has destroyed it. I need to get home. Would you carry me across the water?"
Now the storm had caused the river to fill with water, and crossing it would be very dangerous. But Jason did not stop to think about his own safety, and carefully picked up the old woman. As he carried her across the river, Hera decided to make the test even harder and made herself heavier and heavier. Jason was strong enough and succeeded in reaching the other side. Hera was impressed with Jason's deed and decided to help him become king. Pelias' Trick. A few days later, Jason arrived at Pelias' castle. Jason was a brave man, but he was young and had a hot heart. He did not fear any man, but he was not yet wise like an old man. Because of this, he ran straight into Pelias' castle and demanded, "Pelias, my uncle, I am the son of Iolcus. I have come to become king and rule this land." Now Pelias was not young and strong like Jason, but he had the wisdom of an old king. He did not wish to give up his power and let Jason rule the land. Though he could not beat Jason in a fight, Pelias felt that he could beat him with his mind. He decided to pretend to be friendly to Jason and invited him to eat a great meal. During the meal, Pelias and Jason had much conversation together. "I am so glad you have come, Jason," said the king. "I am too old to rule, and I need a strong and wise young man to become king after I die. You say that you are able to rule a kingdom, so I am sure that you can handle any difficult problems that appear. For example, how would you go about getting rid of a strong young man who is giving you difficulties?" Jason wanted to show Pelias that he was smart and wise enough to fix any problem. "I would send him on a difficult journey, one so difficult that he would never return," he suggested. "That is a great idea," responded Pelias. "What journey would you send him on?" "I would ask him to find the Golden Fleece," answered Jason. "That is a great idea," said Pelias. "Any true hero would be very excited for that task. If a hero succeeded in finding the Golden Fleece, he would win great fame and all men would sing songs about him." "Do you think so?" asked Jason. "Then I will go myself to find the Golden Fleece." "You are truly a brave man," said the king. "If you return, you will deserve to be king, and I will give you the kingdom willingly." Pelias laughed to himself, because he felt that Jason would certainly die trying to get the Golden Fleece. The fleece was guarded by a large dragon. Also, many dangers would face Jason on the way to the fleece. Surely, Pelias felt, he would not have to give Jason the kingdom. The Argo and the Argonauts. The day after his conversation with Pelias, Jason began his preparations. The Golden Fleece was owned by King Aeetes, ruler of the land of Colchis. The journey to Colchis would take many months by ship, and Jason knew that only the best of ships would make it safely. Jason hired Argus, the most famous shipbuilder, and asked him to make the greatest ship of all time. Argus used all of his skill and made a ship that was both fast and strong. Then Hera, who wished to help Jason on his quest, visited Argus and gave him a magical figurehead to hang on the front of the ship. The figurehead could see the direction of the waves and wind and would warn Jason of storms and other dangers. Argus was so proud of his ship that he gave it his own name and called it the Argo. Jason then searched for companions to help him in his dangerous task. To accomplish this, he sent messengers to find strong men interested in adventure. From all around Greece, many heroes learned of Jason's journey for the fleece and came to join him. These men were called the Argonauts, since they would all sail on the Argo. Among them were Zetes and Calais, who were sons of the north wind and able to fly; Tryphus, the world's greatest ship sailor; Hercules, the world's strongest man; Hercules' good friend, Hylas; and even the great musician Orpheus. They all joined Jason in his great adventure. Within a month, all of the preparations were made. Jason said goodbye to his uncle and promised to return soon with the fleece. The Argonauts each began their work on the ship, and Orpheus played sweet music to cheer them. They sailed for a week before coming to a small island, where they stopped to gather more food and fresh water. Once the Argonauts were on land, they were quickly surrounded by an army of women. Without knowing it, they had landed on the Isle of Lemnos, an island where the women had joined together and killed all the men. The queen of Lemnos was called Hypsipyle, and she was both beautiful and strong. Hypsipyle felt that men were troublesome and should all be killed, but she changed her mind when she saw how strong and handsome Jason was. Hypsipyle invited Jason and all the Argonauts to stay on Lemnos. They rested there for more than a month. They spent their days eating great meals and drinking wine. At night, the women would pay great attention to each of them. Jason was so happy lying in Hypsipyle's arms that he never wanted to leave. But finally Hercules convinced him that they should continue their journey. King Phineus. The next island they reached was called Salmictisus, and was ruled by King Phineus. The king welcomed them, but was not able to have food prepared for them. Jason noticed that the king was very thin and weak. He told Jason his sad story. "When I was younger, I did not build any temples to celebrate the gods, and did not offer them any food during the year. This made the gods angry, and they decided to punish me. They sent 3 monsters to trouble me. They are called the Harpies, and they have the heads of women and the bodies of birds. The Harpies visit me at every meal and quickly steal my food and go to the bathroom on my table. Because of this, I can never get enough food to eat and am always becoming thinner and thinner." Jason felt sorry for the king and promised to help him. He ordered his men, Zetes and Calais, to deal with the Harpies. Zetes and Calais were the sons of the north wind, and they had the power to fly. When the king next ate, the two brothers hid under his table and waited for the harpies. Soon, the harpies arrived and grabbed a chicken off the king's table. Just then, Pelias jumped out from under the table, pulled out his sword, and flew after the biggest of the harpies. The two smaller harpies went to help their leader and tried to attack Pelias from behind. Before they could reach him, however, Zetes flew up behind one and pushed his sword through her wing. When the other two harpies saw their companion fall to the ground, they flew off as fast as they could. Pelias chased them until he was sure that they would never come back. They never troubled the king again. The king was so happy that he ordered the largest party and meal that the island had ever seen. The Argonauts ate and drank until the early hours of the morning. Jason spent the evening telling the king about his quest to find the Golden Fleece. When the king heard Jason's story, he decided to give him a warning. "You have scared away the harpies and brought to me much happiness," the king said to Jason. "In thanks, I will tell you how to avoid the next danger you will face. In order to reach the land of Colchis, you will have to sail between two rocks called the Symplegades. These huge rocks wait for ships to pass between them and then quickly close shut, destroying any ship and killing the men inside. No ship is fast enough to pass through safely, but there is a way. Although the Symplegades close very quickly, they open very slowly. Also, they cannot close again until they have first opened all the way back up. If you first send a bird through the Symplegades, they will come together to destroy it. Then, as soon as you see them slowly opening again, you must sail between the two rocks. If your ship is fast and your men are strong, you should be able to make it through before the Symplegades can close a second time." Jason thanked the king for his wise advice. The next morning, after gathering more food and fresh water, he and the Argonauts set sail again. After traveling a few days, they reached the Symplegades. The men stared up at the great rocks with fear in their hearts. Jason ordered his men to row as close to the rock's edge as they could. He then released a bird that he had caught specifically for this purpose. The two rocks came together with a loud sound, but luckily only the tail feathers of the bird were hurt. The water under the Argo raised and fell from the movement of the great rocks, and the men grasped the sides of the ship tightly. When the two rocks began to open again, Jason gave the order, "Row! Row as hard as you can!" The Argonauts each used all of their strength to row their great ship. The Argo moved forward quickly through the water. The Symplegades opened faster than Jason had expected, however, and he saw them preparing to close again. "There is not much time," he yelled. "We must move faster." No sooner did he finish speaking than the rocks began to close together again. Crash went the rocks, and Jason heard the sound of breaking wood. He quickly turned around and saw that the rocks had destroyed only the tail of the boat. They had come through the Symplegades alive. Losing Hylas. Jason ordered his men to stop at the next island they found to repair the ship. After landing on a small island, everyone set out to find food and fresh water. Hercules and his good friend Hylas went into the forest to cut down trees to get wood to fix the Argo. Though the island did not have any people on it, the two men thought that they heard singing. The two men went deeper and deeper into the forest, searching for tall and strong trees to cut down. As they walked, the sound of singing grew louder and louder. It was beautiful. Hercules warned Hylas to be careful. "There are many powerful ghosts in this world," he said. Still, Hylas was curious about the singing and wanted to find out where it was coming from. While Hercules was cutting down a tree, Hylas wandered deeper into the forest until he found a pool of water. He listened closely, and it seemed that the singing was coming from deep within the water. Bending down near the edge of the pool, Hylas stared down into the water. The sound of singing grew stronger, and he saw the faces of 3 beautiful women rise up under the water. Hylas felt like he was in a dream and reached his hand into the water to touch the beautiful faces. The women put out their hands and held his and sang a soft song that made Hylas feel happy and sleepy. Slowly, they pulled Hylas down into the water. Hercules had heard the singing change and had run to find his friend. He arrived at the pool just in time to see Hylas's feet sink below the water. Hercules jumped into the pool and searched for his friend, but neither Hylas nor the women could be found. For 2 days Hercules waited by the pool for his friend. Finally, he returned to the Argo and told the other men the sad, strange story. The men had a funeral for Hylas and then left the strange island. The test. Not many days later, Jason and the Argonauts arrived in Colchis. King Aeetes did not like strangers and wished to have his men kill them all. But when he saw the strength and power of the many heroes, he decided that fighting was not the best way to handle them. Instead, the king met with Jason to ask why he had come. When Jason told him about his journey to get the fleece, the king grew very angry. But he did not want to start trouble with the Argonauts, so he pretended to be calm. "You may have the fleece," said the king, "as may any man who passes the test." "What is the test?" asked Jason. "Oh, it is simple," lied the king. "There is a large iron plough and 2 bulls in the field behind my castle. You only need to plough my field and plant my seed to win the fleece. Oh, and you must plough it in 1 day." Jason agreed to the king's request and went to rest for the next day's test. Of course, the king's test was much harder than Jason knew. The iron plough was too large for any man to lift, and the 2 bulls had iron feet and breathed fire. They would quickly kill any man that came near them. Also, the seeds that Jason had to plant were not vegetable or fruit seeds. They were seeds that caused huge men with sharp swords to grow out of the ground. The goddess Hera knew that Jason would not be able to complete these tasks alone, and she planned to help him in the night. King Aeetes had a beautiful daughter named Medea. Late in the evening, Hera persuaded Aphrodite, the goddess of love, to go down to earth and make Medea fall in love with Jason. Aphrodite agreed and used her magic to fill Medea's heart with love for Jason. Once in love, Medea worried about Jason's safety. She knew that her father had tricked Jason into thinking that the test for the fleece was easy, and she wanted to protect him from any harm. In the middle of the night, Medea went to see Jason in his room. She told Jason about the difficulties of his test and explained how to pass them. Just knowing how to pass the test was not enough, however. The bulls were so strong and violent that no ordinary man could use them for work. Fortunately, Medea was good with magic. She created a magic juice that made a man's skin as strong as metal for a day. She told Jason that she would give it to him if he would promise to marry her. Jason promised and thanked Medea for her help. The next morning, Jason and the Argonauts awoke and went to meet with King Aeetes. "Are you ready for your test?" asked the king, and handed Jason the bag of seeds that he needed to plant. Jason had already drunk the magic juice and told the king he was ready. The king led him to his field where many men and women had already gathered to watch Jason try and pass the test. Jason stood in the middle of the field and waited for his enemies. Soon the 2 bulls appeared. When they saw Jason, they immediately ran at him with their horns. They hit Jason many times, but each time the attack did not hurt him, thanks to Medea's magic juice. Then Jason grabbed the first bull and tied the ropes of the plow over his neck. The bull became greatly angry and breathed fire at Jason, but the fire did not hurt him, and Jason continued with his task. Soon he had tied the second bull to the plow as well. The people gathered were amazed at the strength of this handsome young man, and they yelled out in excitement. Soon Jason had plowed the whole field and began to plant the seeds that the king had given him. As soon as all the seeds were in the ground, each one quickly grew into a powerful soldier with a long sword in his hand. Altogether, the soldiers moved toward Jason. Now, Jason was not afraid of the soldiers, for Medea's magic juice was still protecting him. Still, he knew that he could not defeat so many soldiers by himself. Again, Medea had helped Jason by telling him a way to defeat the army. Jason picked up dirt from the ground and threw it in the eyes of each soldier that came near him. Soon, all of the soldiers could not see, and they began swinging their swords wildly about them. Within a few hours, the soldiers had all killed one another, and Jason stood alone in the field. The Golden Fleece. Seeing this angered King Aeetes greatly. How could he possibly have passed the test? The king thought. Still, the king had promised to give Jason the fleece if he passed the test. When Jason came over to him, the king spoke cheerfully. Truly, you are a great hero. Let us celebrate your victory with a great party. Tomorrow I will give you the fleece. In his mind, the king planned to get Jason drunk on wine and kill him while he slept. He asked Medea to help him entertain Jason and the Argonauts at the party, and he told her his plan. When Medea heard her father's idea, she told Jason about it in secret.
You must get the fleece and escape tonight,
she said.
I will take you to get it after tonight's party.
During the party, Medea tricked her father by serving Jason and the Argonauts grape juice instead of wine. They did not get drunk and sleepy as King Aeetes had hoped. After the party, Jason ordered the Argonauts to guard the ship. He and Medea went to get the Golden Fleece. When they approached the tree where the fleece was hung, the great dragon guarding it awoke and stood in their way. Medea knew about the dragon and had prepared a special magic medicine. When the dragon smelled the medicine, it fell asleep instantly. Quickly, Jason climbed the tree and put the Golden Fleece in his bag. He and Medea then returned to the Argo and escaped Colchis together. Early the next morning, the Argo sailed away before King Aeetes realized that either Medea or the fleece was gone. The trip home was easy, and the Argonauts did not face the dangers they had on the way to Colchis. When he returned to his home, Jason became king and married Medea. Jason's story became famous across the kingdom, and the Argonauts all became famous as well. However, the great happiness of Jason and Medea grew less over the years. Jason grew tired of Medea and married a younger and more beautiful princess. Medea was so angry and hurt that she studied more magic and used it to win the love of many great kings. Many kingdoms were destroyed by her evil powers, but these are all stories for another time.